You know you're an underrated powerhouse when characters like Juggernaut say you have a nice punch. That's Captain Britain. Captain Britain, just like his name would suggest, is the UK's greatest hero, protected his homeland from a multitude of threats, and he's related to the legendary psionic mutant known as Psylocke. Yeah. Just like his handbooks and stuff would suggest, you see the different outfits. He's went through some evolution, different gear he's had, like the Star Scepter. The same way you see his outfits change, you can look at how his powers and abilities have changed over the years or time. It's basically talked about on this page about the progress of him over the years. His costume once functioned as a battery, storing multidimensional energies and giving him superpowers, but now has no special properties. It's because due to many adventures when he was brought back to life by the wizard Merlin, his powers stem from magic and are linked to his own self-confidence. It also gives him versatile things like being less susceptible to telepathic attacks since his rebirth. You're going to see a lot of evidence throughout this video, the farther this video goes, of this kind of stuff. Like throughout this video, you're going to see him using different gears, weapons, force fields, and stuff like that. It's because of the progress he's made and why you might not see him use certain things no more. It's even talked about how he once wielded an original extendable quarterstaff that could project both force fields and flames. Merlin later placed this with the Star Scepter, which added short periods of flight to the above powers and was merged with Brian's new costume. During the older times, he needed this force field to increase his durability and stuff. So that's why some scans in this video, you're going to see that. He can even shield from lava. Evidence of his progression is little occasions like this, little small implications that his powers have been improving. Like in this occasion, he can fly even without his scepter. Its powers must have been transferred to the suit, so he doesn't need the scepter to do it. It just goes into the suit. Also, that's part of the reason why on certain scans you will see him struggle with Captain America, even though he's got the strength advantage. But then there's later points in his career where he's gotten so strong to where super soldier tears are no match. I mean, he's literally able to shield from Phoenix Force users later on and stuff. So what does that say about his might? He made progress. A lot of this video, his feats are going to be relying on his costume, but then later on it relies on his self-confidence. So there's definitely some changes. The same weaknesses he used to have, he no longer has in current stuff. That's why you might see some very inconsistent moments in this video too. These improvements, guys, are permanent power-ups. I usually bring this up in my videos about, oh, temporary power-ups. This one is actually like a permanent power-up. Like that's why I'm just going to put all the feats in the video and not differentiate between power-up and permanent power-ups. Temporary power-ups, it's just permanent, but his power is intrinsic to him. I mean, Captain Britain even says it himself after certain adventures that he feels stronger and even greater than before because of him being reborn. Yeah, he's even faster than before. So yeah, he's improved in all aspects. He talks about how he's so glad he can control his force field more directly than when he had the scepter. Everything is stronger. He used to have to rely on the costume for power, but it's actually intrinsically in him now. But the costume is just an amplifier. And in even later stuff, I guess you could say he's more similar to the character Marvel Gladiator when it comes to his power being related to his confidence. You could say mental warfare. You're your own problem on why you're weak now. But they do mention that he is as powerful as he was before, but it's just linked to his emotions and confidence now. When it comes to strength, in the past feats, his new self should be able to do all that stuff too. Like, I'm talking about some vast changes in his power levels. Like, look what they used to compare. They used to make him seem like he was a peak human. Then over time, they made him seem like he was super soldier tier level or some crap. But then, like, things vastly changed because they class him in class 90 with the heavy hitters later on. You see what I mean? How stuff changes. Does that make sense to you all? Marvel's Captain Britain. See, the thing about his projected force field is that he can almost do some Green Lantern type stuff and make his own like hand construct with the force field. Also basically give his durability to people nearby to shield them. It's talked about how his force field is an electromagnetic aura, basically. I love all characters that can make constructs out of their energy or force fields and stuff. Kind of like on some Invisible Woman status or Green Lantern status. Beings that weigh a little bit like Deathstrike, he can just sling them very far with his raw muscle. Has the brute strength to shatter a chain. Implied able to bend bars that Captain America, aka Super Soldier tier level beings can't. Seeing him lift big stuff like this kind of adds up with it. Look at the size of the things he can lift. Like, look at the size of it compared to humans. It doesn't take rocket science that he can lift several tons. That's why he can lift up cars. Take a look at what he's lifting. He can lift much more than just 2 or even 10 tons, I would say, because when you deep dive into his lore, they say as a bare minimum, he can lift over 90 tons. But yeah, this is a class system. Don't take this as Bible like this is their limits. But yeah, usually they say the word class, they use the word ton. Just ignore the word ton and just say he's a class 90 or something. I mean, stuff like this kind of prove it. He can literally stop a literal plane with his raw strength or muscle. He even go as far as saying, what does this thing weigh? 600 tons? I mean, a plane usually probably doesn't weigh 600 tons, but he more than likely can probably lift 600 tons too. Let's be honest, everybody. He can lift over 100 tons with ease. Be real. You guys know of the famous powerhouses in Marvel and how they can lift mountains, literally millions or even billions of tons, because the Hulk has done something similar. lifting billions of tons. There's implications that Captain Britain, along with the other powerhouses like Hulk and etc., can do similar stuff because it's literally narrated, not him being cocky, but it's literally narrated that this being can literally move mountains with an S, more than one mountain. Meaning that if Captain Britain was in the same situation with the Hulk, supporting the weight of a mountain, billions of tons, he could more than likely do this as well. There's implications he can even lift more based on his occasions with the powerhouse. Like even the Crimson Bands of Sidorak, we can literally see him rip with his raw muscle, implying he can do more than just a mountain lift. He ripped something that was restraining another powerhouse like Quasar, just food for thought. This was brief, but apparently he was able to briefly restrain the muscle of Thor, one of the strongest beings in the universe. Thor does eventually get free, but the fact that he was able to temporarily hold his muscle, he's clashing with this being's muscle. Thor is also one of those beings that can move mountains, similar to what I've already said Captain Britain can do, but it's actually implied Thor can do way worse. Even his base state can bench press small planets. That's why Captain Britain doing this to powerhouse tiers like this is kind of showing off what he really can do. This kind of stuff would actually make sense if Captain Britain can lift or bench press small planets too, matching Thor, being in that same hierarchy of power. You get the idea of muscle. That's why when you see characters like Sandman would try to restrain Captain Britain, you see Captain Britain's raw muscle is strong enough to break out. Look at these scans of him punching through beings, so you know there's weight behind his hits. It shouldn't be rocket science to know that Captain Britain can hit really hard. A character is not given this kind of super strength if they can't use it in combat. This isn't Captain Britain on this particular situation. This is just an example to show you that Marvel writers give this character super strength, lifting strength. They mean they can punch hard with this lifting strength. They even talk about it here. If you can lift 10 tons, what do you think that punch feels like to your face? So yeah, they give this character's lifting strength so they can punch hard. Captain Britain, same thing. It's funny that Captain Britain, the weight of his hits is compared to having a large chest freezer dropped on your brain. And being punched by these two beings combined is like being punched in the face by God. Wolverine tier beings, why do you think you see him do them like this? Sleep time. Why do you think you see so many comics? They imply there's weight behind his hit. The weight of his hits can hit more than one being at the same time. There's too many occasions of him hitting, drop kicking beings, and they go flying. I mean, even Spider-Man level beings have to retreat after feeling what Captain Britain can do and say, oh man, this dude's too much. Spider-Man low-key admitting on the low that Captain Britain has a strength advantage. I mean, matter of fact, he's being hit by beings withstanding attacks from beings that hit harder than Spider-Man. Pulling out bladed stuff against him, it would just shatter on him. Look what happens via durability when Super Soldier Tiers try to hit him. It does nothing, for the most part. He's basically bulletproof. I mean, look at these plasma daggers. They're not even enough to do no damage to him, really. Bullets this close range just blast him in the face, and he's okay. That's why you see Captain Britain hit things way bigger than himself. They still go flying. I've already proven in this video so far that he can move mountains with his muscle. It really shouldn't be breaking news at the fact that he can blitz through buildings by flying through it. I personally think it's clear if he can ramp through a sentinel head like this with ease, he can definitely punch down buildings. I mean, he is boxing it out with beings withstanding attacks from beings that can literally blast or hit hard enough to shatter skyscrapers. How potent do you think his attacks are? Young boy Cyclops, you know, the character that can shoot energy out of his eyes from the X-Men crew, he just withstood his blast and just said night-night. I mean, it's already stated he can literally move mountains, so it shouldn't be a surprise that his punches could probably literally move mountains, but if that's not enough evidence for you, just him boxing someone else, the weight of their hits is like literally causing destruction throughout the place, busting windows from the shockwaves of their hits, punching each other, affecting London and its citizens. You could say in a way, the weight of his punches is shaking the entirety of London, so that moving mountains thing kind of made a lot of sense. The narration compares the punch by Captain Britain and somebody else working together like being punched in the face by God. I mean, look at occasions like this when he's punching beings like Doom. He punches with so much weight, they literally fly around a whole planet's weight. I mean, Captain Britain messed up one of Galactus's machines, so with his punches. We've seen the weight of his punch send Dracula away, punched the head off a Skrull. You know, Super Skrulls be having like powers of different beings and stuff. You know how Super Skrulls be mimicking the powers of different characters? Like, look at this outfit right here. This Super Skrull was mimicking the power of Hyperion guys, like a version of Marvel Superman, basically. He punched the head off of it. Hyperions have a complicated history in Marvel. That's like a lot of different Hyperions, but a lot of them are the same, you know, power level and stuff and durability. A lot of them can withstand planet-sized things ramming into them. They have this kind of raw strength. It's occasions like this is the reason why Captain Britain punching the head off of a Skrull that has the powers of Hyperion is impressive. Hyperion is a being that's held planets apart to prevent them from colliding and stuff. And he has the type of durability to where he can survive universes collapsing. I'm talking about everything dying except him. Like, the Super Skrull has similar power to him. Like, you see what I mean? Simply punching or damaging a being like this that has powers of Hyperion is completely ludicrous. This would not only imply that Captain Britain could shake the entire solar system or produce similar energy to shake the entire solar system, but do much worse. Punching beings with this kind of durability would imply Captain Britain can duplicate universe-shaking type of raw energy with his punches, or the weight of his hits would feel like this. Or him beating or punching beings that can withstand universes collapsing. What does that say about Captain Britain? You see what I mean? Hey, how strong do you think this Super Skrull was? But this is not the only occasion of stuff like this to prove his might. I look at it like when characters that are concrete brute powerhouses that are Hulk level, like Juggernaut, tell you that you have a nice punch. I think narratively you're supposed to be up there with the heavier hitters. He punched the Juggernaut right here, for example. Juggernaut does have durability in his face, by the way. And Juggernaut said he has a nice punch. Yeah, he's not a glass cannon because he literally gets hit by Juggernaut and does not turn into jelly after the hit, so he can take what he can dish. Look at these occasions of him getting punched by Juggernaut, and you still see him being awake. At this point, you should have no doubt he can easily planet shatter. The pressure of his punches feel worse than black holes. We've seen the weight of his punches do this to the Wrecking Crew. He's literally clashed punches with Thor, somebody that can clash with gods like Hercules, and their punches together can demolish worlds, more than one world. So when people say Captain Britain can split planets, you shouldn't be all that shocked. You can call her Captain Marvel, you can call her Miss Marvel, Carol Danvers, blah, blah, blah. She's a very strong powerhouse being that has absurd energy blast. She has a Super Saiyan mode, like, to where anything she can do in her base form, she can do better like this, her binary state, right? Well, just food for thought, in her base state, her blast, just in her base state is mighty enough to melt a hole in a star, and considering the difference between Earth and the sun, like, melting a decent hole in a star would automatically be worse than planet-shattering stuff, right? This proves that Captain Britain is a tank, because we actually seen Captain Britain take hits from Carol Danvers' binary state. You know he's a tank because he can take hits from her like this, and the fact that binary says she's enjoying letting loose on somebody that can take it, meaning his durability matches up with his power levels, he can take this kind of power. This further concretes that, yeah, he can hit with supernova plus like force, you know, star-shattering type power. I mean, when you look at the narrative and writer intent, look at the way his power grid looks. I don't take the power grids as Bible, but when you are rated this high in the strength tier and your durability matches up, it kind of adds up with him being a powerhouse-esque type being. There's clear implications that the weight of his hits can damage beings like Thor. Like, him and Thor have a full-blown kind of fight. Let me just give you a friendly reminder of Thor beings in general, what they can withstand. They can withstand being in the shockwave or epicenter of things that rival the Big Bang narration. They can be in the middle of impacts that erupt energies that simultaneously across planes of reality. Well, they cross all planes of reality. This kind of stuff Thor beings can withstand being in the epicenter of. They can withstand universe-shaking power, shockwaves that go across the whole universe type of power. That's why him clashing punches with beings like Thor, matching him blow for blow like this, is actually crazy. Thor even hits Captain Britain and is actually impressed about how strong he is. Talking about he's already recovered from his blow. Wonder Man is an underrated powerhouse. We see him give him some hands, punch him Slugfest style with Wonder Man. Just a friendly reminder that Wonder Man, the weight of his hits can do damage to Hulkish level beings like Abomination and actually make these kind of beings go to sleep. That's why Captain Britain slugfesting with him is impressive. He's boxed it out with Doom, took blast from Doom, struck by She-Hulk, and got like in a little mini scuffle with her on the low. The weight of his hits punching powerhouses like Colossus also proves he's up there with the heavier hitters. Colossus is somebody that's probably super underrated as well. One of the best telekinetic beings in Marvel history, Nate Gray. Nate Gray admits that he felt that through his telekinetic shield. Captain Britain. Man, I know you wouldn't want to be hit by this guy, especially when you see him hit a being like Jaspers and send him out of the fight. I'm not saying he's necessarily equal to Jim Jaspers in a one-on-one because Jim Jaspers did like battle or box a whole army of different Captain Britons and stuff. So I'm not necessarily trying to say Captain Britain is on this guy's level all the way, but I do think it's worth noting, and I do think it's cool that he's able to send Jaspers away like this with the weight of his hits. Jim Jaspers is a being that can cause destruction on a multiversal wide scale, reality warping type character. Yeah, so sending somebody that can bend reality to suit itself and get stronger all the time is kind of cool, I would say. high-end magic blast powers like from Modred the Mystic. We've seen him actually shield from stuff like this. It was this occasion with Captain America, working together, epic. Enchantress, a top-tier magic being, blasted him. He felt this and got back up. Captain Britain is boxing out with beings that possess the power cosmic. You know, the stuff that Silver Surfer be manipulating. Yeah, Surfer says, I possess the power cosmic. Yep. So when you see Captain Britain boxing out with beings with the power cosmic, that's something to be respected. Beings with the power cosmic try to crush Captain Britain. They just can't instantly do so. It lets you know that he's not a lightweight. He literally withstood a cosmic level explosion and he was unaffected. Yeah. He's actually been blasted by Lilith, clashing and boxing with beings like Lilith. There was a Phoenix blast that literally knocked out all the major powerhouses you can think of. Vision, Miss Marvel, Captain Marvel, Thor tears, Valkyrie tears, but he's still awake. Phoenix is one of the strongest beings in the multiverse. I shouldn't even have to explain to you why this is crazy, him shielding from these attacks. Phoenix is the type of being that's a threat to the multiverse, blah, blah, blah. Not saying he's necessarily equal to the Phoenix. I'm just saying this is crazy that he's able to withstand this. He expanded his shields. He pushed the Phoenix back. Ludicrous. Like, this guy's taking hits from a Super Skrull that has the power of Doctor Strange, Dormammu, and Loki. Like, look at this Super Skrull. Like, this is madness. Yikes. It's not that he needs the scepter no more, but yo, he did have gear at one point that was pretty durable to the point where it could match the Ebony Blade. I guess you can look at it like he's not shy of using melee weapons or scepters. He has experience using these kind of weapons, or you could say staffs. Stated here, becoming a fighting staff, you know. It can grow longer, like power pole extend type status, like Dragon Ball Z type stuff. Look what this staff can do to gear and crack it. On top of all this strength, I've talked about in this video, it's scary to think about Captain Britain having all this strength and having fighting skills on top of this, because we literally seen him do nerve pinch, pressure point type stuff to knock beings out. Like, he's literally did this more than once when it comes to, you know, pressure points, knocking out Kitty via nerve cluster or nerve strike, pressure point. Some of this stuff could be strength too, but yeah, we've seen him creatively fight beings like Red Skull, Captain America, Psylocke. Like I said, this could be a mixture of raw power and skills put together, because Psylocke is a powerhouse too. He's fighting beings that you could argue on the powerhouse tier 2, but she's a powerhouse in a different way. They're evenly matched all together, but in raw muscle, I would give Captain Britain the advantage, but she can make up for it with her telekinesis. You know what I mean? They imply in this very scan that he has a strength gap over Psylocke, saying his titanic strength is no use against an opponent he can't touch. So they implied the strength gap was vast, but yeah, Psylocke's a beast in other ways though. He's experienced at using, holding, wielding a blade, like one of the blades being the Sword of Might. I mean, he's had little fun training sessions with Nightcrawler. The only reason this training session was even possible is because there was this light suit that gives him protection equal to Brian, aka equal to Captain Britain, so it wouldn't be a mismatch. But this fighting training is the point to help Captain Britain punch harder with his martial arts technique. You know, if you're a trained fighter, you can punch harder. I mean, I've already showed you him boxing out with some of the best powerhouses in Marvel. Do I really have to really prove to you about his combat speed? He had to keep up with him, right? I mean, it's mentioned that he has superhuman strength and reflexes, guys. He's out here dodging attacks at the last second, can react at the speed of thought. Might I add, during his weaker days, dodging gunshots. He's out here dodging stuff that's thrown like a bullet that large, he still evades. He's even dodged light speed stuff like lasers. He's got crazy enough reflexes to activate his force field in this particular situation in less than a microsecond, aka less than 1/1,000,000th of a second. He did this against a laser, so yeah, he's way faster than the speed of light when it comes to reflexes. This adds up with the feats I've already showed you about him boxing with Captain America. He's reacting from attacks from Captain America. Captain America does similar stuff to this kind of stuff. So when they really say stuff like he's reacting as fast as thought, that's kind of an oversimplification. He's out here reacting to particle beams, all kinds of different rays. Yo, there's literally panels where he's boxing people out so fast to where he's literally invisible and they don't know what's going on. If this isn't crazy combat speed, I don't know what is. Blitzing the people to where they literally have no clothes on, no guns, no nothing. Zips to them like ridiculous speed. So imagine having all this strength I've already showed throughout this video, but can also throw his hands at ridiculous speeds like this. Like, imagine all this strength I already said with hands like this. That's scary to think about. I mean, I guess his punching speed could be part of the reason why he can punch hard. You could argue that. His combat speed is way faster than the speed of light. Just like pretty much every major Marvel character, this is normal stuff. When it comes to his flight speed, he's at the bare minimum faster than the speed of sound. Compare him to the speed of missiles. Even this handbook say he could at least fly this fast. But I hope you guys enjoyed this. Did you guys learn something new? It's pretty clear he's a powerhouse with the heaviest hitter, guys. He's constantly boxing it out with Psylocke, who's a powerhouse tier 2. You could argue in a different sense, but she's still a powerhouse when it comes to telekinesis and stuff. And they're always matching or boxing each other. Do me a favor and subscribe, like, comment, share, turn on notifications if you can. Thank you all for the donations. It helps out a lot. Respect, Captain Britain. I'm glad you are enjoying your time on the channel. Make sure you check out the playlist on the channel to see other How Strong videos. If you like what this channel is offering, make sure you hit that subscribe button, and I will see you guys later.